Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Here tonight, in our first show, we had Inside the Pigskin. Great broadcast there. This is the second of our doubleheader, and I want to welcome back my colleague, George Eichhorn. Welcome back, George.
Hey, good being here, Scott. Nice to have you. Nice to be on with you.
Well, it's all right. Jordan Long.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
You're going to be in for a treat tonight, and a guy that I've known a long time, KR Lombardia. KR, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Scott. Good to be here.
All right. Before I go into a lot of the questions, I want you to give everybody an overview of what your baseball career has been like.
Well, I grew up in Tampa, probably the amateur baseball capital of the world, it seems like. I wasn't a very good player, though, believe it or not. Went to the University of Tampa. Started my coaching career at Tampa Catholic. My first year as an assistant, we won the national championship. And, you'd think it's like picking apples off a tree. It's pretty easy, but it's not. I went on to coach at the University of Tampa for 3 years under Frank Bermudi. And Scott, you know him very well.
Oh, yeah.
Then when he was out of there, I went to the University of South Florida and then went to University Hillsborough Community College for a year under Lou Garcia. And I was the original coach in waiting there, but things didn't happen that way because of some political stuff. And then I went back to the University of South Florida and then went into high school coaching as a head coach and then went into administration. My last job was athletic director at Alonzo High School, where Jose Fernandez was a senior that year. I got to deal with Jose for a year. He's a trip. He's probably one of the greatest kids I've ever been associated with. That was my last job 12 years ago. So I've been out of baseball coaching since 1985, but you never really get out of it if you're an athletic director. So that's me. Fourth generation Tampa. And baseball has been my life.
And I'm sporting my University of South Florida hat because I'm a proud alumnus there. I graduated in 1986. All right. We have a lot to get to tonight. Good evening, Will Vogel. And now you have a chance to meet another person, KR Lombardia. Will Vogel is one of our aspiring broadcasters, and he also is a heavy contributor in the chat room. We appreciate everything that Will brings to the table indirectly behind the scenes. With that said, let's get to business here. So, KR, we talked about this recently, that you were discussing with the press coverage in Tampa for lack of high school sports as well as college, HCC, and USF. Why don't you go ahead and let us know exactly why you are unhappy?
Well, we get no coverage. If you don't go online to look at schedules and scores, you'll never know that South Florida or HCC or even had a team. And high school sports is basically they could care less. Jarrett Guthrie, who actually wrote for the Tribune and then Times later, actually has a site called 813 Sports, and they report on high school baseball, and it's on Facebook. And if you don't go to that, you'll never know what's going on. And it's sad because high school baseball in this town has always been very good. Jesuit probably. Single elimination is hard to say that they're going to win the state championship, but they're I think they've lost 2 or 3 games all year, and not one thing has been put about them. Jefferson has a great team. Robinson High School has a great softball team. You'll never see anything about it. I couldn't tell you what South Florida's record is until I looked on the online. It's under 500. I know that. HCC was eliminated. They're not even in the junior college playoffs, but you couldn't tell because the paper puts nothing on. It's sad because when I coached in college, every week you'd have a story. They would come out, and Scott Henry, somebody would come out and do a story on your club, how you were doing. And today you get nothing. And I don't understand that. They worry about the Rays, they worry about the Lightning, they worry about the Bucks. And that's about it. Then they'll do some college football, but it's disgusting that they don't give them the time of day, and I don't understand it.
All right, before I go into this a little any further, I want to let everybody know that the audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Send topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. And you can also be a heavy participant in the chat room. I would like to have you on as well. Get to know you. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. And we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. All right, George, you want to comment? I know we've been
I
in
sure
the
do,
business.
Scott, because this is a problem that I'll tell you what, KR and Jordan, it's the same in Detroit. Maybe not as bad as in Tampa. We do have a full-time high school writer, David Gorecki, at the Detroit News. But get this, the Free Press had to go back to their guy that retired, and Scott knows him well, Mick McCabe, and bring him back as a freelancer to cover high school sports. So it sounds like the situation down there is even worse than the situation in Detroit. And I'm not saying Detroit is the best coverage of high school sports either, but boy, that really disappoints me what you said, KR, because these newspapers today, I'm with you 100%. I mean, these kids, this is the future. These are the future of our country, future of our states, of our cities, these young kids and their athletics that they're involved in right now. And shame, shame, shame if these newspapers, like you said, don't devote enough attention.
It's a shame. It's terrible.
Now, I know Jordan Long is an active writer. So what's your take on this, Jordan?
I will say I'm lucky where I am in Western Colorado because we actually, with high school sports, we always have it on the news. Being in a small city, that's the only sports that are really going on. It's either our Division II college, or it's college sport, or it's high school sports. So luckily, we have the coverage of high school sports. It is disappointing to hear that other areas don't devote a lot of time to high school sports because, like George said, that is the future. These are the kids that are going to go to play college. Some of these ball players and players are going to go play in college, maybe even to the pro. So it's a little sad to hear that where you guys are, there's not a lot of coverage, as where, on the contrary, where I am, there's a lot of coverage of high school sports.
That's great. I think that they care about the kids. And, you know, when I was growing up, Little League Baseball was covered. I mean, my name was in the paper when I played as an 11 and 12-year-old. And those days are gone, but I understand that. But how can you not cover high school and college baseball or college sports, at all? They'll cover South Florida basketball a little bit. It'll be like the 6th page on the sports. I don't understand it. And we only have one paper. We had 2. I wish we would have kept the Tribune because the Times at one time was really a good newspaper, but now it's not. And the Tribune really, really cared about high school sports. They'd have all conference teams, all county teams. Now nothing, 0.
Oh, wow. Because, I was going to say, we still have that in Detroit. We do the all suburban, all city, all state.
Well, George, I think that the northern areas care more about sports and physical education than the southern states do, in general. For instance, I'm a physical education major, and then I got my master's in physical education and administrative supervision. The best PE schools are in the north, not in the south.
Interesting.
And I think that physical education is emphasized more north of the Mason-Dixon than it is in the south. For instance, the state of Pennsylvania, every one of their small schools, California, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Slippery Rock, Lock Haven, their PE schools are sensational. And in the South, no, not so much. I mean, I went to a really good one, but not to the effect of a Slippery Rock or Springfield College or anything like that. I think that the North has always emphasized sports more so than the South at the school level.
Okay.
All right, let me point out to Will Vogel that we will be addressing that later in the show, so hang tight. Yeah, I can tell you right now, having met KR through the Tampa Tribune, Tom McEwen, Jim Henry, and Joey Johnston, the people I worked with were really dedicated. And, we even had different sections like East Hillsboro, Northwest, and all that. And so you had your community papers within the big, and now it's a sad thing where we got to go. I know we can talk about this forever, but I'm glad we're talking about it tonight. Now, one of my favorite subjects to talk about with KR, especially since there's a new audience, is I had the opportunity to pick the games I wanted to go to because I was in charge of the baseball beat for the Tampa Tribune. So KR had a team called Chamberlain High School. What was their name? I think it was
the Chiefs. They were the Chiefs. Now they're something else.
I thought they were
politically correct, and they're not the Chiefs anymore.
Well, that's okay. But anyways, this team was called the Chamberlain Speed and Lumber Company, and a guy that was on there was Jaygruden, who was a shortstop, moved to left field, and they won 13 games. George, this reminds me of when Don Wirt was moved to the outfield in favor of Mickey Stanley, and they won the 1968 World Series. So with that said, KR, what was your mindset when you decided to make this change?
You talking about at Chamberlain?
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
When I got to Chamberlain in '84, I was in college a couple years before, and I was out for a year, and then I went back into high school. I've always been a believer. When I coached in college, we'd go down to Miami, and they would run us out of the stadium running the bases. They stole. I mean, college baseball isn't like it used to be. And I always said, if I ever coached, I'm going to run. So I coached in summer before, and we'd always run. Well, in the 85 Chamberlain team, we stole 127 bases in 27 games. And I really learned base running.
Wow.
Ronfraser, I met with him after a game we played down there, and they stole us blind. And Ron says, you got to make two good throws. The catcher's got to catch the ball. He's got to make a good throw, and the pitcher's got to make a good throw, and the infielder's got to put the tag. He said, we run, and they did. They ran and ran and ran. And when I ever had a chance to coach a team, we ran. And now you got to be blessed with a little bit of speed. My first three hitters in that 85 team were a kid named Robbie Cornett. He stole 30 bases. The number 2 hitter was Jaygruden. He stole 30 bases. And the third hitter was Todd Murray. He stole 27. So in the first 3 hitters, we stole 87 bases.
Wow.
We would go many times base hit, steal second, base hit, steal second, base hit, steal second. It was 3-0, before there was an out sometimes. And we would put so much pressure on the other club. And Frazier did that at Miami. When they were really, really good, Miami would run you right out of the stadium. And I felt that that's the way I would always coach. And I did. I coached even my bad clubs we could run. The year after, we stole close to 100 bases. We weren't a very good club, but we could run. And not only do you run, great speed helps, but being able to take a great lead and running on the pitcher really helps. They slide step and they can do all that stuff. But I'll tell you what, if you take a good lead and the catcher's got, and the catcher's already knows you're going to run, they're shook up. We stole 12 bases against a Jefferson team that had a catcher that was tremendous. Freddie Langioti, he's a very good friend of mine. And we stole him blind. By the third inning, he was ready to be taken away in a straitjacket. Nobody does that anymore at the college level. It's hard to do it at the pro level because guys throw so well, and everybody's throwing 100 miles an hour, so it's not easy to steal now that as it used to be. But yeah, we were fun to watch.
So why did you decide to move Jaygruden to the outfield?
Well, Jay he came to me, and I didn't know much. And the guy that preceded me was a guy named Bud Merrill, who played at HCC and played at Florida Southern. The baseball community in Tampa is very small. It's very well jointed, I guess. So I sat down with him. I said, he says, Gruden's your shortstop. Well, I had a sophomore come in named Edgar Molina. Well, Jay had really hard hands, believe it or not. A guy that was a quarterback, could run. He had very, very, very hard hands. And, you know, when you get a job and you go in and you're told this guy's the guy, you sort of stick with him. Well, I stuck with him for 3 games because it's not like a 60-game schedule where you can give him time to adapt. So after the 3rd game, I said, he can't play shortstop anymore. His hands of stone. And that's fine if you're Roberto Duran, but you're playing shortstop. So we moved. I asked him, I said, you ever played left? He goes, Coach, I can play anywhere you want me to play. So we moved him to left, and he didn't have a great arm, but you don't have to have a great arm to play left field. And he could run, and we moved him to left, and we moved get him Edgar Molina to shortstop. He's only a junior. And we won 13 in a row after that. We were 2-1 going into at the end of that. We won 13 in a row. We were ranked, I think, 4th in the state at one point that year. We're a good club. Single elimination. We lost to Sarasota Riverview. We should have beaten them, but, you know, terrible umpires call we could talk about it all night, but it still sticks in my craw. But, yeah, he had really hard hands, believe it or not. Great kid, though. He should have played baseball at Louisville. Not only played quarterback at Louisville, he should play baseball at Louisville because he was a great baseball player. And he played as an afterthought.
Well, the amazing part about this comparison, as I mentioned, Don Wirt with the Detroit Tigers, George Whitty played infield and then got moved to the outfield in favor of Mickey Stanley because they needed a bat. Is that correct?
Sure.
No, it was actually Ray Euler, the shortstop. Okay. Yeah, Ray. You're close though, Scott. He played right next to Don. And and Ray Euler, took a back seat when Mayo Smith put Mickey Stanley at shortstop.
Right. Well, I was only 6 years old, anyways. But all right, So I'll take a mulligan. Thanks for the correction. But I'm going to go to Will for a moment. Yeah, Will. Jay Gruden is the brother of John Gruden. Okay, so the Grudens are very well known out in the Tampa area. So I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, and we got that answer for you. All right, well, Ray Euler, whatever. Don Wirt, they both have a championship ring. All right, let's go on to the Tampa Bay Rays. Are rolling, but let's forget about their wins and losses right now, KR. There's a bigger picture than what their wins and losses are. Where should they build that new stadium? Should they build it in St. Petersburg or Hillsborough County?
They should build it in Ybor City. And I know exactly where. They talked about it a year and a half ago because I happen to be president of Centro Asturiano. It's a Spanish club in Tampa. Tampa had the largest immigration of Spanish citizens, and my great-grandparents were one of them. And it's right behind us. And they talked to us about building and adjoining to our clubhouse, which is 108 years old. The problem in Ybor City is you can only go so high. And when they were going to go with Montreal, they were going to build the stadium behind us and then build a stadium in Montreal. And it was not going to be covered. But to build a covered stadium in Ybor City is almost impossible because of the height restriction. You can only build so high. Kenny Hagan, who actually played for me in that Chamberlain team in '85, is a county commissioner, and he is spearheading trying to get the Rays here. And all he'd have to do is get a waiver to build that stadium higher, to build a dome. Okay. If they built it there, I think that it would be better. Will they ever draw big time? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Okay. You're talking about, I don't go to games anymore. I went the first year my dad had season tickets, and the cheapest tickets were like $39. Okay. So if 2 people, that's $80. To park is $100. People in Tampa don't have that kind of disposable cash. And I don't think that we'll ever draw like they do in New York or Chicago or LA because of that. I'm a prime example. I don't go to the games. They're on TV. And I told the Braves one time, I said, y'all are dumb. I wouldn't put any of my home games on TV, but they're getting money. In the old days, you would never see a home game in Chicago or WGN or WOR. They were never on TV in New York or Chicago. The away games were, but not the home games. Then they went to the home. I think they're losing money that way. I think they need to to say no more home games on TV, people would come out. All my friends say, the hell with it. I'm just going to watch it on TV. Why should I drive all the way over there and spend $100 for a game? Then I can watch it on TV. I think that's a problem in Tampa. I may be wrong. I don't care where they put it. I still don't think they're going to put 25,000 in a stadium every night.
Well, I mean, like you, I was a resident there for a period of time. I always thought they should have built a stadium adjacent to Tampa Stadium, and they had a sign there many years ago, but that never went through until they built the one in St. Petersburg. I personally don't think that the Rays can survive in St. Petersburg. And with the traffic situation on the Howard Franklin Bridge and 275, there's no way. I mean, I've been to Tropicanafield too. And, I do believe that Major League Baseball can survive in the Tampa area, but it has to be in Hillsborough County. If you're telling me that Ybor City is the way to go, fine. But really, the best place they should have had it was right near Raymond James Stadium and out there. And that eliminates a lot of problems. Plus, that's an established area for supporting sports right off of Dale Mabry.
No, you're probably right there. That would be a good. Also, the fairgrounds has been talked about. That would draw some Lakeland and Orlando people because it's east of Tampa. And if you're in St. Pete, I mean, they're as far west as they can go almost. They're almost in the water. I mean, you're not going to get Sarasota and you get Bradenton, but you're not going to get Orlando or Lakeland to come out there because it's just so far west. But, they know a lot more than I do, I guess. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to work.
Well,
now there's talk about the Orlando Dreamers with Pat Williams. So this has just recently come in. Jordan,
yes.
I'm going to turn it over to you in a moment, but do you think that there's a reality that the Rays could wind up in Orlando if all this continues to occur?
Well, obviously that you guys need a new stadium. And like KR was talking about, you need to lower the price of tickets. If that's not going to happen, you might as well go where you can get fans, and that's Orlando. Because the fact of the matter is if they do move to Orlando, there might be more people that are willing to spend the money to go to baseball games in Orlando. I honestly don't want to see the Rays move. I want them to stay in Tampa or, somewhere in that area. But the fact of the matter is where can you build a stadium for fans to go to? That's where it comes down to. And there's no solution at this point.
Well, you're right, George. Well, the solution is a lease over at Tropicanafield is up in 2027, and now you're really down to crunch time. Where are they going to go? All these things usually happen at the last minute. And if you're going to build a halfway decent stadium, you need about 2 or 3 years to do it. So,
I saw the stadium they were going to build without the dome, and it was cool. It was going to abut to our clubhouse, which is very historical, and it was nice, but. That dual Montreal, that's not going to work. That was laughed at by people.
Well, MLB shot it down anyways, KR. They want part of that.
Thank God. I mean, I don't know where they got. I told them, the meeting guy said, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I don't know where y'all pull that out of your ears that you would think that two cities could share a team. I don't know where they got that from. And I'm not a rocket scientist, but that doesn't make sense to me.
See, now I was the opposite. I was in favor of that, just so it would take the burden of selling the tickets a little bit. It would ease it a little bit in the Tampa St. Pete area by having and exposing the product north of the border in Montreal. But they don't have a good stadium in Montreal. The Olympic Stadium can't.
No, they were going to build a new one. From what we understand, we heard they were going to build a new one.
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
they had their shot already, and they didn't do it. They had their shot.
Yeah, I know, but some cities, Atlanta had 2 shots at the National Hockey League. Sometimes you get more than 1 shot.
Yeah.
But, I mean, not always. But the thing is, in Detroit, what helped them out is the fact that the owner at the time was a guy named Tom Monahan, right, owner of Domino's Pizza, okay? And he wanted the stadium built right across the street from Tiger Stadium. Well, Scott knows this. That is not a good area, okay? I mean, it's an okay area, but it's a very low-income area right by Tiger Stadium. And no offense to the people there because they've struggled and live by the bootstraps, as they say. But what happened was he didn't get that kind of support to build it there. So he ended up selling the team to the other pizza guy named Mikeyolich, as you know, from Little Caesars. And then the stadium actually got built, where everybody thought would be a good spot in the middle of downtown Detroit. So sometimes it helped out in the situation here, is all I'm saying, is because they did have a change of ownership, because most people were not happy with where Monahan wanted to build it right across from the old Tiger Stadium.
So, KR, we'll conclude the subject. What do you think the outcome of this whole raise thing is going to be?
Everything I'm hearing is that they're going to build it right there at Tropicanafield. But Kenny Hagan, our county commissioner, says we're still alive. And that's all he'll tell me.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I don't know.
All right, well, that's fair enough. We'll continue on to rule changes. And I know you definitely want to talk about these things. First of all, we're going to let you address the ghost runner. You call it slow pitch softball and extra innings.
I think that's the most ridiculous thing, that they put a runner at second base. That's what they do in slow pitch softball for men. And I think that I'm a traditionalist. I like some of the rule changes, but that putting a runner at second base to start extra innings is absolutely, it's Mickey Mouse. I mean, it's Mickey Mouse. I mean, it's not, I don't know of anybody, and I hang around a lot of guys that are baseball guys. Not only do they coach, they were fans, and they think that's the most ridiculous thing they've ever seen. I was watching the other night, the Yankees and Rays, and they put a runner at second base. I think, Jesus Christ. I mean, make him earn his way to second base. Don't put him there. I just think it's ridiculous. You know what it is? I'll tell you what. You got people that are commissioners that don't know what the hell baseball's about. I really believe that. They don't know the game. They don't know the tradition. They don't know the historical significance of the game. But I like the speed up rules. I like some of the things they do. The big base, I won't give you a nickel for that. That's crazy. I mean, it's been the same size of base since 1880, I think, or 1869. But this ghost runner that's ridiculous.
All right. So what I'm going to do there, great segue, and we'll let George and Jordan comment as well. We'll break down the rule changes one by one. Okay. Thoughts on the speed up rule, the pitch clock?
I like it. I would never had that problem as a coach, because I'm from the Johnny Sain, work fast, throw strikes, change speeds. My pitchers all work fast. When kids came to me out in college, I coached pitchers in college also, we talked about that. And they weren't comfortable at first, they were after. We damn near quick pitch people. We got the ball, you get the sign, we're gone. Right. None of this. Don't give them a chance to think up there. But that was me. These guys that walk around the mound, the Al Hraboskis, I don't believe in that as a pitcher. You get on the mound, get your sign, and go. Mike Hargrove would have had a hell of a time playing in today's game. He's a human rain delay. I don't know how he would have hit. He may have been struck out every time and never got a pitch thrown to him. You think about it, but I just don't believe it. I think you work fast. You work work fast.
Well, who the quickest worker that I've ever, Kitty Cotton. Oh, he used to just take that thing and throw it.
Jimkaat. Yeah,
Jimkaat.
Should have seen all my pitchers, Scott. We got the ball, licked the sign, and threw. I mean, and if they didn't do it when they got to me, they did it by the time they left me. I mean, by the time they were pitching for me, we were working fast.
Yeah, you mentioned a great guy there, Johnny Sain, former Detroit Tigers pitching coach in the '68 championship. But man, oh man, that I tell you what, they don't get much better than Sain. Thank you for KR for bringing back that memory.
Dennymcclain didn't take a lot of time.
Oh no, mickeylolich.
He believed in work fast, and I think Johnny Sain may be one of the greatest pitching coaches of all time.
Oh, I agree with you.
I believed. I read his stuff many years later after I coached him, but I really believed in what he did, and I believed in it before I read his stuff. And the first guy I worked for that knew pitching was a guy named Barry Schallenberger. He was actually became the head coach at University of Alabama. He pitched in the Phillies organization, and he believed in working fast. And it stuck in my craw that if you do that, the hitter doesn't have time to get up there and think.
Yeah.
You know, that really doesn't. And I think that puts the hitter at a disadvantage. So, you know, that's my feeling.
Okay, let's continue on with the other ones. And then Jordan and George, you guys can also please provide your input. I want to make sure we get to every one of them first. Okay. Next, you said you're not a fan of the bigger bases, encouraging more stealing. But I'll tell you one thing before you go into this. A guy we know all too well, left-handed pitcher Chuck Hernandez, had the best move I've ever seen. And you know what I knew that he was good when he was with the Fort Lauderdale Yankees. And Chuck today is still a good friend of mine. And I know we had an opportunity to go ahead and see him over at that event that we had in Tampa. Was it for
the youth? For Legion Baseball?
Yeah, Legion Baseball.
For me in the summer of '78, and yeah, he had the best move. He had hurt his arm. I want to say his junior year, and he couldn't throw a little bit. I mean, he was so Mulry was the coach of Tampa Catholic. Pete brought him in, just to pick off the runner at first base. You're bringing him in. He's got a bad arm. He brings him in just to pick the guy off at first base, and he did.
I believe that too. Let me tell you, KR. Okay, when I saw him at Fort Lauderdale with the Yankees, the guy's control wasn't very good. He gave up a lot of runs, but he says, I wouldn't have had to have a good move if I'd have kept people off the bases. So Chuck was definitely one of those kinds of people who had a great sense of humor, and he's been a good friend of mine over the years, and it's kind of neat because my days of going back to the Fort Lauderdale Yankees, I met a lot of great people through the years, but to me, Chuck Hernandez is classic.
I've known Chucky since he was like 5 years old. We went to the same Catholic school. His sister was a year behind me, married Nadia Contreras, but I've known Chucky since he was really, really little. And he played football at the boys club, and then he pitched for me. He was really fortunate. I had a great time working with him because he learned the three-finger changeup from his brother-in-law, Nadia Contreras, and who had learned it from Gary Nolan. The three-finger, the OK change, they call it the circle change. Gary Nolan invented it. And then Nadia picked it up because he was in the Reds organization. And then Chuck, that summer of '78, taught it to me. Actually, he was my pitcher and taught it to me because he had got it from the Reds. And he threw a no-hitter against West Tampa one night, and we're in the bullpen. And, of course, I coach my own pitchers. So we're in the bullpen, and he's just – you can tell he said, boy, I feel great tonight. And his changeup was dropping. It looked like a spitter. He threw the three-finger, and it looked like a spitter. It sank 6-8 inches.
Wow.
He went out no-hit. He went out no-hit, a great West Tampa team that year. That night.
So, KR, really quickly, just give me a quick summary of what you think of the bigger base. You don't like them?
No. I don't. I mean, again, being a traditionalist, since 1869, they've been the same size. Now, all of a sudden, they look like a pizza box. I mean, and I understand why they're doing that for safety. In girls softball, they have a double base. But I don't think that's right either because now you're getting that much closer. So the bang plays are going to go in favor of the defense, and I don't know. I just don't like that. I don't like. I mean, if they'd have done that with Ricky Henderson, he may have stole 200 bases a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't like it. And I like to run. Don't you get my offense is run. I don't like it. I think it's great. They're taking away from the tradition of the game.
On to the shift rule.
I wouldn't change it. I mean, I wouldn't have changed it. I would if I'm a hitter and I'm a left-hand hitter. They're playing me over. I'm going to bunt the ball to third base until they stop. Can you imagine? And we're old. Okay, we're not. Scott, you and Jordan are younger. George and I are old. Imagine them running a shift against Rodcarew. He may have hit 1,000. He may have hit every ball to left field and hit 1,000, but they would shift him. Tonyoliva. Imagine that. I don't think they should have changed the shift. I think the hitters are stupid and not trying to beat the shift. Inside, outside swing. I was an amateur player. I wasn't a great player. If I'm going to hit and run, I'm going to hit the ball the right side. I led with my hands and I hit the ball inside, outside. Why don't these guys do it? But, they don't want to do it because they want to hit for average and they want to hit for a great story. Frank Vermeulen, Scott, Frank from
Yeah.
Frank coached Kevin Cash, the manager of the Rays in high school. So Frank used to go to practice, and the guy that played center field that got traded this year, Kiermaier, he's in the cage one day, and Frank tells him, you ever thought of bunting? You can run like a deer. You'd up your average 20 points by bunting. He goes, I never thought of that. I never thought of that. You're in the big leagues and you never thought of bunting to up your average. I mean, these guys are BB brains at that level. I really do. I really believe that. And Scott, I'll tell you, I'm not very politically correct. I'm going to call it like it is. You're a BB brain if you don't try to beat that. You really are.
No,
and if you're a right-handed hitter and they're playing you all the way over, push bunt between pitcher and first, you're safe every time. It's not as easy as left-handed hitter, but they want to put that rule on. Yeah, it's all for money anyway. Now the left-handed hitters are up their average 20 points this year or something like that.
Yeah,
I think it's stupid.
All right, the last one, and then George and Jordan can provide their 2 cents about these. All right, we talked about the minimum 3 batter rule. You didn't seem too enthusiastic about that one either, did you?
If you're going to go lefty, lefty, righty, righty, no, I think that they should be able to leave baseball the way it is. I mean, I like the speed up rules to get the game done, but the other stuff I think is just it's managerial decisions that they're and player decisions that they're interfering with, and I don't think you should do that. Speed up games. 1960. I'll tell you, 1965, summer of '65. We finished summer baseball. My dad takes me to Atlanta to watch the Braves, and we happened to see the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. Koufax against Cloninger. Leadoff hitter for the Braves is the Dodgers go down in order 1, 2, 3. Lou leads off the bottom of the first, hits a home run. That's the scoring for the rest of the night. The game was over in an hour and 38 minutes. We were leaving the stadium at 8:38. They work fast. Pitchers work fast back then. So they don't work fast now. And I think that's one of the problems that they work. You got to force them to work fast.
Okay, Jordan.
Well, you talk about
what we're going to do, George.
Yeah,
I'm going to take them one at a time. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Speed up rule. Like it or not? Yes or no?
I like it.
Yeah. What about you, George?
I do like it.
All right. Next.
I don't know if anybody that doesn't like it.
Right. Well, I don't mind. I don't mind seeing a game end in about 2.5 hours.
Oh
either.
yeah, I mean it's great,
especially considering the fact that access to these players isn't like it used to be. But that'll be for another day, another time. So,
right.
All right. So, all right, we'll go back to George first. Okay, the bigger bases, like it or not?
I like it because it has increased the stealing and it has provided another dimension to a lot of these teams that heretofore didn't know how to steal or didn't know how to play the game.
All right, Jordan, bigger
you
bases.
know, watching a game, I don't even pay attention that they're bigger bases, so I absolutely like it.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I watch a game these days. I don't even pay attention to the shift and the bigger bases because the bases will always be in the same place. And to me, the shifts are what they are. I'm so used to watching it the old way that I don't even pay attention anyways. You know, when you grew up with watching baseball a certain way, then to see a lot of these changes, to me, it's not a big deal. All right, the shift rule, George, like it or not?
I am glad they have installed that rule because I didn't like what was happening with baseball with all the shifting going on. So yeah, I'm in favor of the new rule.
Jordan?
I've never liked the fact that they got rid of the shift because of the fact that you're taking strategy for defense out of it.
I'm with you there. And the minimum 3 batter rule, George?
Yeah, I can see both sides of the issue on that one. I'm okay with that one.
What about you, Jordan?
I've never liked it because of the fact that you're looking for a lefty-lefty matchup or a righty-righty matchup, but you have to have them pitch 3 batters. Yeah, I've never liked that one.
Well, here's where I stand on this. Once upon a time, relievers used to go 2 or 3 innings. So to have to go a minimum of 3 batters, to me, isn't as big a deal as some of the other ones that KR alluded to. So I could probably handle that a little bit more than a lot of what there is out there. All right. With that said, okay, I'm glad we got to the rule changes. let's talk about some of the best MLB players you've ever seen. And thankfully, one of them got in the Hall of Fame this year, Fred McGriff and Wadeboggs. And you know what? We're going to let KR answer this because he certainly, and you guys are going to get an educational moment. Then you can ask whatever questions you want to KR. So, all right, talk about Fred McGriff, Wadeboggs, and then name a few that stand out, KR.
I went to high school with Freddie's brother. He went to plant with me, Dexter. Haven't seen him in forever. He moved to California, I heard. He was a little, Freddie was a little kid when we were in high school. Fred got cut his sophomore year at Jefferson High School.
Wow.
Pop Cuesta was coach, and Fred went out there and didn't do well. I mean, it was obvious. I talked to a lot of people. He didn't do well. Well, the next year, Frank had gotten fired at University of Tampa. Frank got fired, so he went to be an assistant at Jefferson with Pop, and he grabbed Fred, and Fred had real problem with left-handed pitching, and Frank was a left-handed hitter, and I saw Frank play since I saw Frank play in high school, and Frank was 9 years older than I was. Frank could really coach hitters, so he got Fred and opened him up against left-handed pitchers, and Fred really started swinging the bat real well. If it wasn't for Frank Permui, Fred McGriff probably never plays high school baseball. Mm-hmm. Freddie was just a great kid, great family. Great power, tremendous fielder. And I'm so happy that he got in the Hall of Fame. Wadeboggs, I had the opportunity to coach Wade his sophomore year at Plain High School. I had just graduated from the University of Tampa, and the head coach at Plain High School, which is my old high school, was David Fife. And David called me and said, "Hey, come be my assistant." I had coached the year before at Tampa Catholic with Pete Mulry. So I went out there and worked with the infielders and the hitters. And Wade was a sophomore, and David wouldn't start him. And I'm hitting him 100 ground balls every day, and he may drop one if we're lucky. And he can make all the plays. I said, "Dave, you got to play this kid. You got to play him. He's a sophomore. He's going to make sophomore mistakes." I said, "Well, the guy we playing shortstop is a senior, and he's making sophomore mistakes. He's hitting about 190. I said, "Boggs can hit." So he finally started playing him a little bit. At the end of the year, he played him the last game. Shortstop, he got 3 hits. Played stellar at shortstop. Wade, just a tremendous hitter. You could tell at 15 years old, he was a great hitter. Not a power guy, a rodcarew type of guy. You know, you throw it inside, he'll pull it. If you throw it outside, he never tried to pull anything. Tremendous fielder. I didn't think he was fast enough to play short, but I thought his arm was plenty good to play short. I've seen a lot of shortstop play that didn't have great arms, but then they moved him to third. And the scouts were down on him because he hit with a lot of power. But, you know, when you hit 330, what the hell does it matter if you hit with power? I was really lucky to see a lot of great players growing up. I'm 72, and loupiniella is 70. He graduated in 61, so he's 8 years old. I saw loupiniella play in high school. Saw Tony La Russa play in high school. Saw a guy named Kenny Suarez, who you guys probably don't know. He caught with the Rangers. Little guy, 5'8", 5'9", had probably one of the best arms I've ever seen behind it. He had a Johnny Bench arm, but he couldn't hit like Bench. But La Russa was probably the best shortstop we've ever had coming out of Tampa. He really got a short end of the stick. He was a bonus baby. And George, you remember those? You got bonus baby. He had to go to Kansas City, the Athletics, when they're Athletics, and sit for 2 years on the bench, could not go to the minors. 17 years old, 18 years old, he's sitting on the bench in Kansas City and not playing. Pinch running a little bit, not playing a whole lot. Then they send him to the minors. Well, that retarded his growth. And then he got hurt, and Tony he hit 196, I think, lifetime. But he's in Cooperstown as one of the greatest managers of all time. I will tell you this. Loupiniella would have been in the big leagues earlier, except for his temper. Really? He had a really bad temper. He destroyed a couple of water fountains in the minors, and he had a really bad temper. He knows it, and Lou knows it. Lou's mom and my mom were AAU all-state basketball players, so they knew each other since they were little kids. Lou was probably the best player at that time. Lou was a hell of a basketball player. He led the county in scoring. He actually went to the University of Tampa on a basketball scholarship. and then played baseball as an afterthought. Just a tremendous athlete. Could shoot the lights out of a basket. I think he averaged 30 points a game in high school or something like that. I saw him playing in high school. He was tremendous. Great hitter, pitched a little bit, threw hard. Tony's the best shortstop. I had the opportunity to coach Lenny Faedo, who was a Twins starting shortstop for 2 years. Great player. Hit 4 home runs. Great story. He had hit 3 home runs in a doubleheader. We're playing Palma Sea Big League. He hit 3 home runs in a doubleheader. And Gus Poulos, the Yankee scout, who I knew, came by the dugout. He goes, "I've seen enough." I said, "I guess you have seen enough." 3 dingers. So he's leaving. He goes on Himes Avenue to leave, and Lenny's 4th home run hits George's car in the street across the street from Palma Sea. So, I've been really blessed to be able to coach Mike Heath, Bobby Sproul with the Red Sox. Mike Heath was a shortstop for us. That's how much we knew. Played him at shortstop. Well, he was a shortstop all his life, and then the Yankees made him a catcher, and then he eventually ended up at Oakland as a catcher. But we had some great players in this team. I was the athletic director at Alonzo the year Jose Fernandez was a senior in high school. There's one of the greatest kids I've ever had. He was what he went through to get here from Cuba was amazing. They caught him twice. The 3rd time he got here, his mother almost drowned in the raft coming over. The Coast Guard rescued him. He just, just a wonderful young kid. It's such a shame that he died so young, because he would probably he'd be in Cooperstown eventually. He hurt his arm his rookie year. He's one of those kids that he's hung up on the gun. A lot of the kids are hung up on the gun. And I think that's why kids get hurt nowadays. Jose would come to my office. He goes, "Mr. Lombardia, I hit 100 on the gun today." I said, "Jose, you're worried too much about that. How's your movement? How's your location? You're worried about the gun, because these guys have the gun out there." And he's throwing 100 miles an hour in high school. And what happened? He got hurt his rookie year, had to change his motion, still overstrained himself, and had to have Tommy John surgery because those guys overthrow. And I see it now. I mean, I saw Glass now is still out. He's hurt. But Jose was one of those kids that he had to throw 100 miles an hour. And you don't need to do that. I don't think. I may be wrong.
All right. So George and Jordan, do you have any questions to KR about some of the players that he mentioned with the baseball rich history that Tampa possesses? George?
Well, yeah, I mean, you talk about the La Russa situation, like Detroit, when they took Al Kaline, remember KR?
Yes.
I mean, he went right.
I was really young then, George.
Yeah, but he went right into the lineup.
Right.
The Tigers did not hesitate putting this kid from Baltimore, and what a career Al Kaline had in Detroit.
See, Tony wasn't ready for that. Tony was not ready to play shortstop.
Oh, I got you.
At 17.
Yeah.
He got drafted in he got signed in there was no draft back then. Bonus babies. He signed in May, right? In fact, I think the night he graduated, he signed. He was in Kansas City 3 days later, and we're very good friends. His sister and my sister-in-law went to school together. His sister actually worked for my dad at the bank.
Oh.
So he grew up across the street from the elementary school I went to. So I've known Tony and his dad. I mean, I've known the whole family since I was, 8, 9 years old. And that was crazy. That was crazy.
Let me ask you, KR, and I know this is a personal kind of thing, but do you think he was unfairly put into that situation with the White Sox? I mean, I know he agreed to come back, but the things with his health and everything.
His health wasn't bad. We don't know what's wrong with his 2 first cousins are good friends of mine. I will have lunch with one of them tomorrow. They don't know what's wrong because Eva, Tony's sister, won't tell them.
Oh.
We think it's cancer, but we're not. That's just guessing. All of us are guessing. Eva will not tell us because Tony has asked her not to say anything.
Sure.
Whether it's curable or it's not, but he was plenty healthy before he took the White Sox job.
Okay.
Why he came back, I know, and I'd rather not say.
Okay.
I know why he came back to baseball, but I don't want to. I can't say.
That's fine.
It's not fair.
We'll move on. We'll move on to the.
He needed to get out of the house.
Okay.
Leave it with that. But yeah, he's it's sad. I don't know. We don't know what's going on.
All right, Jordan, you don't have anything to add to it? We'll move on to the next topic because this is a really good one too. So have 4 or 5 more things I want to get to today. And one of the things is I should know about is why catchers, I used to play the position back in Little League and love the position, make good managers. And you had some good Tony LaRussa stories, but why don't you answer the entire question and the way it's set out to be, why catchers make good managers, and then you can allude to Tony LaRussa.
My second year at South Florida, we're playing. They call the Gold Shield game. The first year we played the Yankees, and the second year we played the White Sox when Tony was the manager. Jim Leland coached third. Dave Duncan was a pitching coach. So Al Lopez was alive at the time. And we're playing. We got about 9,000 people at the game. And South Florida is not like Mississippi State. That you can't seat 9,000 people. They're everywhere. So Tony leaves his dugout and comes to sit with us because Al Lopez is sitting next to us. And Al and Tony know each other. Al was one of my grandfather's best friends. So I came to talk. We're talking, and Tony says, Tony, you know what I was calling? I said, Tony, I'm the pitching coach, which is really crazy because Robin Roberts is the head coach. He's in the Hall of Fame, but I'm the pitching coach because I'm a teacher and Robin's just a facilitator. So I said, it's really funny. I was a catcher and then a first baseman, and I'm the pitching coach. And he said, hell, I got the best pitching coach in baseball, and he was a catcher, Dave Duncan. Mm-hmm. He said, you guys see the game from behind the plate, and you see the whole game. He says, pitchers just see pitchers. They don't see anything else. And that's why Robin Roberts had me coach pitchers, because I saw the whole game. Robin was not the kind of guy that saw the game the way a player. That's like a Billy Martin, second baseman, catchers. They make shortstops. They make the best managers. But Tony says, don't worry about it. He says, I thought I was doing a pretty good job. We had the 8th best pitching staff in the country that year. And we didn't have anybody on full scholarship. Everybody was on partial, but everybody was on partial in college. And Tony, he set my mind at ease that day. It was really funny. Leland's coaching third, and I'm sitting with Al and Tony in the dugout. And Leland looks at Tony and says, hey, Skip. He goes, so Tony says, what's wrong, Leland? You can't coach third base against a bunch of college kids without my help? I mean, he grossed them out. I said, gee, Tony, that's terrible. Why you would gross Leland's a hell of a manager and a coach, and you're grossing him. He goes, we're just playing. So it was fun. It was fun.
All right. So the main thing I want to ask you, KR, and we're going to bring Will Vogel's comment to light. Jordan, can you please read Will's comment?
So Will said, catchers, in my opinion, are great managers because they are like the captain, in my opinion, because they see all positions on the field at one time and see it from behind the plate.
That's exactly what Tony told me.
Yeah, well, there you go. So with that said, why do you think, KR, that catchers make good managers? I'm limiting it to catchers now.
Because of that, because we look at the game from the whole field.
Right.
We can see a pitcher. I filmed my pitchers when I was coaching. I would film them in the bullpen, and I'd look at it at home and see if they overstriding. Most pitchers, Johnny Sain said this, most pitchers overstride. They're pitching with their elbow below their shoulder. They're down on top of the ball. They're rushing their motion. And when you look at that, you look at it from a catcher standpoint, and you can tell. Sometimes you can't tell in the game, but you can tell from the sideline. I mean, if I'm in the dugout, I can tell, he's rushing his motion. He's overstriding. And it's easy to show that. It's easy to see that sideline. I don't know if pitchers – I guess pitchers notice that. Sain was a pitcher, so he would notice that. Barry Schallenberg was a pitcher, and he was a great pitching coach. And I'll go probably one of the greatest pitching coaches in college was a guy by the name of Skip Bertman, and he was a
Yeah, I
pitching
remember
coach at Miami, and then he coached his own pitchers at LSU. Skip was a catcher at the University of Miami, and
I
I've
remember
talked,
Skip Bertman. Yeah.
Scott,
Wow.
I've talked pitching with Skip at length at baseball conventions, and let me tell you something. I learned more from him than I've learned from anybody.
I
And he
can
was a catcher.
imagine. Jordan, anything you want to add?
Mm-mm.
This guy is I'll say one thing about Jordan Long, and he's a great commentator, but I have a feeling that Jordan's getting this is one of those shows where this guy is probably absorbing every ounce of that knowledge. And I hope
Yeah.
that you keep absorbing every bit of that knowledge, Jordan, because you're going to look at this broadcast so you can feed you with a lot of good stuff to add for future shows. I've never seen a more even-keeled guy who has a great upside as a journalist. And tonight, Jordan, we'll call him Sponge Long, all right? Because he's doing a fine job. So, well, you better keep sponging, my friend.
Mhm.
And you're doing a wonderful job, Jordan. So thanks for hanging with us. All right, we'll just mention a couple things that Vogel mentions, and then I want to get on to some of the high school coaches. There are only 4 more things I want to address anyways. Will Vogel mentions the most recent ones are Mike Sosha, Joe Girardi. Obviously, they're pretty good. Bob Melvin, and hello, Ralph Williams. Thanks for being on. So those are a few names that we'll put out there. So let's go on to maybe some Tampa people very briefly, KR. Pop Cuesta, Eddie Cardieri, Robin Roberts. What comes to your mind when I mention those individuals?
Pop coached for a long time at Jefferson. I worked with Pop when I was in high school. I worked at the Inter Bay Boys Club, and Pop was I was working the gym, and Pop was there. So I've known Pop we fished many times and crabbing, and we coached against each other. Never coached together. Pop's a legend. He unfortunately never won a state championship. 2 years after he retired, Jefferson won a state championship, which is really sad. I always felt bad because he never got to win one, but he's not the type of person that it ever bothered him. Eddie's been out of baseball for a while now. Eddie's selling real estate in the Keys, I heard. I haven't seen Eddie.
I talked to Eddie a while. Yeah, he got out of baseball. He is selling real estate. He did mention that. And Robin Roberts, well, he was actually coaching at USF when I was attending school there.
Yeah, I work for Robin. Rob is a pro guy. He didn't know much about college baseball. College baseball is a different animal than pro ball. You got to be able to recruit. You got to know about recruiting. And he really didn't understand that part of the game. He thought the kids were going to show up there because he was Robin Roberts, and that didn't happen. And I told him he didn't recruit Tampa hard enough. You got to recruit Tampa. If you look at University of Tampa, they've won 4 or 5 national championships, something like that.
Right.
6 maybe. And a lot of Tampa kids. They recruit the Tampa kids, and they're Division II. And South Florida would have done that years ago. It's hard now because their stadium is nice, but it's not an SEC stadium. And if you look at the SEC stadiums, it's hard. They've got to recruit against Miami, Florida State, and Florida. Central Florida's got a pretty nice ballpark now, and he's a very aggressive recruiter. The guy over at South Florida's a nice kid, works hard, but it's a hard place to recruit because of Florida and Florida State. And Kevin O'Sullivan at Florida is a relentless recruiter. He is relentless. I mean, he is everywhere. I don't know how Gino DeMari is at Miami. He really doesn't have to go too far to get great kids. You just draw a line at Palm Beach and go south and just keep those kids home that don't get drafted. You got a chance.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a little insight here from this area. Kevin Cooney and John McCormack have done a really good job over at FAU, and I think that's so. FAU has a really good baseball program.
Oh yeah, they've had one for years.
Oh yeah, no, that's one of the sports that's been. So Jordan, you're getting a good lesson here about Florida baseball. So yeah, like anything else, when we talk about Tampa baseball, though, how do you not mention the impact that George Steinbrenner has had on the area? He has a field named after him, and obviously tell me what the impact of George Steinbrenner's presence in Tampa has been like through the years.
George donated the lights for South Florida in the old field, not the new one. He donated the lights for Florida's old field. and Florida State's. And of course the school, Steinbrenner High School, is named after him. George is a very big. If George ever read that somebody needed money for baseball or for sports, George came up with the money. When they did away with junior high sports years ago, they wanted to start middle school. They needed money. Just right before George died, he wrote a check. He's big. His son, not so much. They're very, they're not as upfront as George was. I know that Hank, when I was at Sickles, my cross country coach needed new cross country uniforms, and we didn't have the money for it. What wasn't budgeted, so Hank wrote a check and gave him brand new cross country uniform. Of course, they went to the same military school in Indiana. I can't remember the name of it. George went there. Hank's kids, George's kids went there, and my cross country coach had gone to school there, so they knew him. So yeah, George, the Steinbrenners have been very, very good in the city of Tampa, and college baseball in the state of Florida.
Yeah, I know what a relentless recruiter Kevin O'Sullivan is because I'm on the Florida Gators media distribution list, and I read a lot of unbelievable baseball stuff. Hey, Jordan, actually, some of the things I like to share with you on Twitter is the University of Florida, because I'll tell you one thing, with you doing a lot of baseball, and I might share more of their content with you, because if you want to learn a little bit about, Florida sports, the Gators, to me, the Miami Hurricanes, and even FAU, they're, to me, the gold standard of what Florida baseball is all about.
Well,
now,
O'Sullivan recruited Pete Alonso as an afterthought. Pete Alonso was not heavily recruited out of high school, and I couldn't understand why. And he was sort of like their last kid they picked that they signed, and the rest is history.
All right, I've got two topics that actually George and Jordan can talk about. And you ready for this, Jordan? Okay. First of all, KR will lead off with you again. Yeah, lead off is definitely an appropriate word with this particular broadcast. But Giancarlo Stanton made out of glass. That used to be something Rick Curdy used to mention a lot. So, all right, Jordan, do you think Giancarlo Stanton is made out of glass?
He can't stay healthy, so it kind of makes sense that he's made out of glass. But even when he's healthy, he's a great player. But the problem is, again, he can't stay healthy.
Yeah, well, they're paying him a lot of money to be made out of glass. I can only imagine what paper mache would look like, but all right. So, all right, George, what do you think about Giancarlo Stanton?
No, of course he's not made out of glass. He's not a China doll. But, I mean, some players just have injuries, and they have an injury thing that goes on and on. We had a fella here in Detroit by the name of Tyler Bertuzzi, hockey player, constantly injured. Good player, scrappy player, injured way too much. I mean, it just happens. It's unfortunate for him, and it's unfortunate for athletes that do run into that as the injury bug hits them more than other players.
All right, so give me your reasons, KR, for calling Giancarlo Stanton made out of glass.
He's been on the injured reserve list 11 of 14 years.
That's good enough for me.
He's hurt all the time. I'm a huge Yankee fan. I am a Yankee fan first and a Rays fan way second. And there's a bunch of people here in Tampa that are Yankee fans. We grew up with Yankee fans. And a good friend of mine is a huge Yankee fan. We talked about it. We think he may be too tight. He's always pulling muscles. To me, being a physical education teacher, you're not stretching enough. I think that's my guess. He may not stretch correctly, but he's always pulling muscles. And we talked about, we were going to do a pool of how fast are you going to be going to the injured reserve this year?
Gosh.
And it's of course a lot of Yankees are hurt. So I'm questioning now the trainers. You start questioning the trainers. Are they not doing what they're supposed to do? Remember the old Yankee trainer, Gene Monahan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I never saw those guys get full muscles like this. Mantle was always hurt, but Mantle got hurt because he tore his knee up. And they couldn't fix knees like they did now. So, but nobody else was hurt. I mean, I don't remember people getting hurt. back in the old days when Monahan was a trainer. And I'm sure that modern medicine would make them avoid that. So, they look like a mash unit.
Blake Lozinski, well, thanks for joining us. He comes on a lot, and Will Vogel, obviously the king of the chat. So, Blake, thank you very much for being a part of this. Okay. And of course, one of my favorite topics, and there's no way I could not bring it out with you here, is it's a two-part question. First of all, KR Lombardia, is Don Mattingly a future Hall of Famer? And will he be the next manager of the Yankees if Aaron Boone falters? I'll talk about the Hall of Fame first and the manager second.
I don't know. I like Mattingly. I don't know what kind of manager he is. I know that I thought Aaron Boone was a mistake. The last guy they took out of the broadcast booth was what's his name from Jerry. He's a Yankee with the Padres.
Coleman.
Jerry Coleman. I mean,
yeah,
that's not successful. There's a lot of people out there should be man. I don't think the Yankees will ever win with Boone and Cashman. That's my feeling. I don't think the old man is flipping in his grave. The old man would have got rid of both of them years ago. The old man would have never hired Boone in the first place. I think. I don't think we should ever got rid of Buck. I think Buck Showalter was a good manager.
Right.
I would have brought him back. I think Buck's a good manager. I'm a little prejudiced there, though. Buck's a Mississippi State graduate, so am I.
Okay.
I think Buck's a good manager, but I don't think they're going to win with Cashman and Boone. My feeling.
Well, let me give you a little insights about Mattingly. Number one, he did a pretty decent job with Marlins, knowing that they end up getting all their players at the dollar store anyways, or they don't have a very big budget anyways. I can't pick on them too much because you can't bite the hand that feeds you. But let's face the reality. Don Mattingly succeeded in L.A., won there. I believe he could win in New York with a lot more cash capital contributing to the roster. And number one. And number two, I've always been an advocate for him being in the Hall of Fame. The only thing that worked against him is the fact that he never went deep into a lot of postseason. So otherwise he'd get in there. Sorry, what about you, Jordan? I'm going to ask you about both these questions. Don Mattingly, a future Hall of Famer, number one?
Yes.
Okay. You care to elaborate?
Well, no, it's just his numbers are good enough. But the problem with the Baseball Hall of Fame, and we've talked about this, it's the Hall of Good. It's not the Hall of Great. But Don Mattingly, you can't write baseball history without Don Mattingly in there.
Okay. Well, he's got a lot of artifacts in there anyways. The only thing missing is a plaque. But I don't know. I was there in August. So, and the second, what about this question, Jordan? Do you think he should be the next Yankee manager?
It would make a lot of sense just because he's an ex-Yankee. And the fact of the matter is, as you pointed it out, is he did well with the Dodgers. He did an okay job with the Marlins too. But the fact of the matter is I think, and I like what KR said, is that Boone is not the right man. I think Mattingly would have been the better choice. And I think he will eventually be the next Yankees manager once they fire Aaron Boone.
What about you, George? Comment on both of them.
Well, he's 62 now, Mattingly. So he's at that point where if they do name him, it's got to come sooner rather than later as far as being the new manager of the Yankees. But yeah, Aaron Boone has had way more time than anybody would give him. And very good point, KR, that had the old man still been around, no way would he have been keeping him around. And then as far as the Hall of Fame goes, I mean, I can see it, but I can also see guys like Lou Whitaker and Mickeylolich and Bill Freehan, and I could go down in the history of a lot of Detroit players too that haven't gotten a fair shot in making the Hall of Fame. But Mattingly does deserve a chance on the select committees, very much so.
All right, George, read Will's comment.
Will Vogel, yes, the future of the Hall of Fame, and yes, future manager, because Boone has not done a lot for the team, and they haven't gone to the World Series since 2009. That's just
great segue. So that leads me to one more question here because of what Will said. Personally, I think that when they let Joe Girardi go, it was a mistake. Jordan, you're nodding your head. Okay, take your nod and turn it into words.
Well, Joe Girardi actually coached them or managed them to a World Series. I thought they left him off the hook way too early. He also got them to the playoffs and almost backed into another World Series. Right. I really wanted Joe Girardi to be the manager of the Cubs. Obviously, that didn't
Right.
happen. But the fact of the matter is with New York, it's either World Series or bust. And what did Joe Girardi do? He got them to a World Series and won it. I think he should have had a little more time.
Me too. All right, George.
I agree. Joe got the axe too soon, and yes, definitely deserved more time than he got in the Bronx for sure.
All right, KR, final word on Joe.
I agree.
Girardi.
Here's what we hear though, that Cashman loves Boone.
Okay.
And Steinbrenner is not, well, Hal, because Hank's dead. Hal is not real hands-on. He's not.
Right.
He doesn't have the same drive that the old man had.
That's
Hank
like
had very
Detroit.
little. Hal has even less.
Same thing in Detroit, KR, with Chris Ilitch versus the old man, Mike Ilitch.
Yeah.
Same. No drive.
Where did they build the new stadium, George? Where is it, near the old one?
No, it's in downtown, the heart of downtown. All three stadiums, KR, are within walking distance. The Detroit Lions, Ford Field, the Comerica Park of the Tigers, and Little Caesars Arena, the hockey and basketball arena, all in the same area.
Well, I know
Beautiful.
Alex Fido's father coached him in high school at Delonzo, and I was the athletic director. He was Jose Fernandez on that team when Alex was a freshman.
I hope Alex makes it in Detroit. Yeah, the kid's got,
He got drilled the other night. It's sad. But,
yeah.
But Londi tells me that he gets to stay in a hotel that he can oversee the park. There's a
Yep.
hotel down the street. He can oversee the park.
Yep.
So-
Sure does. Yeah, a hotel right down there. Yeah.
You take your life in your own hands up there, though?
It's gotten a lot better. Detroit's gotten a bad rap, as the Motor City Mad Mouth knows too.
KR, cut my city a little slack. Then again, it's pretty hard for you to do that because I lived in Tampa, so it's great. You know, we'll talk
You guys
about Detroit.
you guys got a great pawn shop up there. on 8
No,
Mile.
All I know, I haven't been to it, so I'm not going to say. My brother Lonnie would always say one of my hometowns, and I wrote a story recently about him in Tampa, and of course Detroit. Hang in there, Jordan, because you're going to have an opportunity in a moment to let everybody know how they get a hold of you. So finally, KR will close it on this note. What's retirement like? And any do-overs in your career that you would do?
No, brother,
after all this
I'm
time?
so glad. You know, we're having a tremendous teaching shortage here in Tampa and administration shortage, and I can see why. I mean, it's just gotten schools are war zones down here. I mean, and I'm sure they're everywhere else too. And they're not disciplining kids. And I couldn't be an assistant principal today. I couldn't do it. They're cussing out teachers. They're not doing anything about it. I don't miss one. I hear stories and I just shake my head. I just can't believe it. It's sad. But retirement's been very good. My wife and I are enjoying. She actually retired a couple years before me because she started younger. She worked for the county, same retirement system. So we travel a little bit. We've been to Spain a few times. We're going back to Spain next year. Go to the beach. We do some things. We relax, and we're having it's great. It's great. Retirement's wonderful.
It's called getting out at the right time. All right. Well, this is a part of the show where we let everybody know how they get a hold of them, and then I'll close it out with how you can reach us again. With that said, Jordan, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. And I'm sure KR will probably pay attention to you a little bit since he has some free time on his hands. Anyways, all right, JL.
You can find me at Sports Scoop on Twitter. I also have a blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays with podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com. And besides being here on the South Florida Tribune with 108 Stitches on Tuesdays, you can find me on the Pundits Pundit on Wednesdays with Jacob Krishner, Danzel Snipes, a.k.a. Jay Nelson, as well as Scott.
Yeah, I enjoy that. That's a heck of a show. We talk sports and non-sports. Done a really good job with Pundits Pundit. All right, KR, let everybody know once again how they can reach you. And obviously, it's been great having you on the show. I know it's been a good education for George and Jordan about Tampa. But the reason why it's so good to have George and Jordan on here because it has such a wealth of baseball history, and KR has been nice enough to share some of that knowledge with a lot of the people out there. Because Tampa, when you talk about players coming from that area, it's unbelievable. And you know, even Will Vogel was startled when we mentioned Jaygruden. But you know what? I saw him when he was a pup. All right, KR, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
Well, I don't have anything. I'm not like you guys. I don't have anything online. I'm on Facebook. If you want to friend me on Facebook, that's fine. Jordan, what city you live in Colorado?
Grand Junction, Colorado.
Oh, junior college World Series.
Yep.
That's a great place to. My friend John Tamargo played there in the Junior College World Series, and he said he wanted to play the rest of his life because he said fly balls get out of there like nothing.
Yeah.
High elevation.
How do you like that, Jordan? The guy knows a little bit about your town, man.
Right.
My cousin also lived there until about 4 years ago, and she moved back to Illinois.
I'll be darned.
Beautiful place, though. Pictures are beautiful. I've seen pictures of Grand Junction. Beautiful place.
Well, how about that, Jordan? Didn't expect that one, did you?
No, not a lot of people know where Grand Junction is. So
Well,
Junior College World Series, baby.
This guy knows. All right, there you go. You made a new friend here tonight, Jordan. All right, George. Maybe KR Lombardia might want your book, so let everybody know how they can get it and everything else.
Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air is the name of my book, KR. I wrote it many years ago. And Scott's in this book, too, because Scott and I have known each other in the broadcast business for 43 years now.
Wow.
And George Kell, Al Kaline, Ernie Harwell, Ray Lane. I mean, there's so many great Tiger announcers over the years. And Scott's in here interviewing two greats, Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. And the book is available from Arcadia Press or Amazon, or better yet, go to the end of my column at the South Florida Tribune. I write under the Motor City Tribune. And at the end of my column, there's a tag where you can just click on it and you'll be attached to be able to purchase a copy of the book. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. I'm also available on LinkedIn under my name and on Twitter at SNG Sports 99. You can hear me on 108 Stitches with Scott and the Sports Exchange and the Fire Up shows and wherever else he needs me. And I want to tell you, KR, it's been a pleasure being on with you. And I know Jordan feels the same way. Like you said, Scott, we learned an awful lot. Thank you for sharing so much of the history of Tampa and St. Pete baseball. Thank you.
George, I got to leave you this. Denny McClain's son was in my PE class.
Oh,
gosh. He didn't play baseball. I said, "You're Denny McClain's son. You don't play baseball? Can you come out and throw maybe and see what? I'll make that." He goes, "I don't play baseball. I don't play baseball." He wouldn't even come out.
Oh my! Wow!
I said, "You can't short arm those curveballs. You know, I know. I don't want to ask you to win 31 games, but come out and win 4 or 5."
Yeah. Now Denny just moved in the last 6 months. He just moved permanently down to Florida, but I don't know what city he's in.
Yeah, his parents are divorced. I think. I asked him if he drank Coca-Cola. He said, "Not as much as my father."
Oh yeah.
No, I deal with the Diet Mountain Dew. So all right, let me let everybody know about us one last time. The audio version of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Send topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com, or you can participate in the chat room as well. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, and I repeat, call efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. I can be reached on Twitter at Tribune South. And a special kudos to Candy Ebling, who does an unbelievable job putting these shows up and doing everything out as well to get our written content up as well. University of South Florida is a media distribution of ours, partner of ours, as well as FAU. And, well, you have FAU as a media distribution and the University of Florida. So I get a lot of good baseball stuff as well as other sports from all of these as well. So, KR, every time I bring you on, it's like another trip down memory lane. And, you know, the one thing I can tell you, Jordan, is when you meet people in baseball, and I mean you do meet them, these friendships are probably greater on this sport than a lot of the other ones because it's a real small circle here. I'm not knocking hockey, football, or basketball, but there's a certain thing within the sport of baseball where these friendships and relationships last a long time. So, again, you know how to get a hold of us, and we want to thank everybody once again for watching 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Tampa Bay Baseball with KR Lombardia. So, meanwhile, we'll catch you next Tuesday night on a new, fresh edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So, on behalf of George Eichhorn, Jordan Long, and KR Lombardia, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we will catch you the next time.